Which is so actually you can't even get away with doing something like that today from an HR perspective, but at a certain time and a certain period, that was how things were done. So I went out to the women who I interviewed, and I said, tell me about it. And they go, Tracy, here's the big difference today. We're in a people business. It is all about people today. And women actually excel in the people business. So all of those differences that they may have thought were not strong in the past are actually quite powerful today. Okay, so I said, tell me more about leadership today then. They said, actually, it shifted. It's about relationships. It's about teams. It's about collaboration. It's about empowering your employees. And it's about trust. However, very interesting, our executive said, is that in 21st century, there is a differentiator that every male and female should know. It's called calculated risk-taking. And most of our men and women said what separated them from men and women was the fact of when they took a calculated risk. So if that is one lesson learned to think about, it's risk-taking. Okay, so what else they say is calculated risk-taking is actually valued today. Used to be follow the orders of the firm. Now we say be an entrepreneurial employee. The tap on the shoulder is over. And let me just define it, because I had a young person say, what does tap on the shoulder mean? It means in the old days, you actually went to work and you stayed in one company, and then eventually someone would tap you and say, oh, you've been here a long time now you're promoted. You go from manager to director, and now you stay another 5 or 10 years, and then you get tapped on the shoulder again, and we move you again. Isn't that amazing? You could just get tapped on the shoulder and just move ahead. So the idea is that longevity doesn't mean promotion anymore. And I think that's really important, because I do meet so many people, right, who say, you know, I'm in my 50s and they just promoted this 30-year-old. How come? Well, it's because contribution is now being valued more than longevity in a firm, right? So these are things that we need to think about as we're in our own groups and in our own teams. And a lot of executives have said, I really want people to raise their hand and don't get settled in a job. Now, in the past, that was the right thing to do. You're supposed to do your job, right? Keep to your job, be a specialist in your job. And now, in this new modern VUCA world, we're saying to people, no, I really want you to take on more responsibility. I really want you not to settle in your job. In fact, I would tell my employees when I hired them for a job, you see this job we have today? It's not going to look like it a year from now. And the reason it's not going to look like it from a year from now is because of you. You're going to take us and lead this job transformation because you're the one close to the customer. You're the one who understands what's going on. So you as a leader or CEO of your job need to evolve us. And that's how companies move ahead today, not by staying in the status quo, but by moving us ahead and taking some of those calculated risks and raising our hands. We also found that each generation brings in new expectations. Our Y women, millennial women, actually value confidence more than our Gen X women, our baby boomer women, and more than our Gen Y men. Yes. Our Y women are a very, very confident generation, and I think that's worth noting. We also asked men and women of all generations, at what age do you think that you would be a leader? And our boomer men and women said, my 40s. And our Gen X women and men said, in my 40s. But our millennial men and women said, well, of course in my 20s. I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, right, and Melissa Mayer, right? Of course I'm going to be a leader in our 20s. So the expectation is quite different than previous generations. And in fact, I went out and I met a young woman, millennial. She's 29 years old, and she was vice president of a firm, which was pretty impressive. I mean, out by me, everybody's really, really young and high tech. But in general, in the companies, it was pretty impressive. So I said to her, how is it that you are a vice president in your 20s? And tell me your story. And she said, I will tell you my story because there's an important lesson here. She said, my parents graduated college and they got a job. It was handed to them. And then they stayed in the company, and the company took care of them all the way through. They didn't worry about a thing. And actually, she said, you know, it was just pretty predictable. She said, I go to college and I graduate and there are no jobs, no jobs. So I graduated a survivor. And do you know what kind of attitude you develop when you're a survivor because you can't find a job? She said, you start to take your jobs very seriously. You start to go look for that perfect company that's going to, right, because you may never get another opportunity. And she said, I went out and I found this great company who hired me. And she said, I was really optimistic and excited about it. And she said, and then after about a year or two, all these men were sort of getting promoted over me, and I wasn't. So I said, what did you do? She said, well, I went and asked them, why am I not moving ahead? And they said, oh, well, he's more qualified. Oh, he's been here a little longer. Oh, he's got something that you don't have. And I said, what'd you do? She said, I would do what anybody would do. I start looking and eventually left with another job, but I eventually left. She goes, I don't want to work for a company that doesn't value my gender. So then what happened? She goes, well, I went to another company. And I thought optimistically, I did my research and said, this is great. I'm going to get ahead here. Then all of a sudden, these older people started getting more promotions than me, you know? And she said, I'm kind of watching after a year or two going, why am I not getting promoted? I'm raising my hand for things. I'm looking for opportunities. See me, see me, see me. Where are they? And they go, oh, now, dear, just wait your turn. Wait your turn. You eventually have enough experience for us to promote you. I said, what did you do? She goes, I would do what anybody would do. I started to look, and I left. She said, I'm not going to work for a firm that doesn't value me and my age. I need to find a place to work that's going to value me. And she said, and eventually, I did. She said, and that's how I moved ahead, because I finally found an environment in a firm that actually valued me. What's her lesson here? A few things. For us as individuals, it's speaking up and letting people know. But for us as managers, is let's make sure that we don't have unconscious bias and that we do allow people, and we see those people raising their hands and wanting to do more, and don't let other things get in the way. Her advice is be fearless about your career development. So we also found that in our younger generation viewed life as much more integrated than some of the previous generations. In this scene, I just want to explain in case you don't know 30 Rock, Liz Lemon is a Gen X, we presume, and Siri is a millennial. And Siri has let Liz Lemon know about work-life balance, and that actually she would like to have a baby and is planning on having a baby at age 29 or 30, in her 20s, which is very different than Liz's generation. Generation X is sort of groomed to get your career on track and then have your family. So we're listening now to Liz as a Gen X advising and mentoring Siri.